Hey, step back, you're making my counter smell. Sir, I'd like to withdraw $50,000. $50,000 from you? The teller laughed. That's good. My watch costs more than everything you own. Go ask for money somewhere else. It's my account. Please. Did your government check finally clear? Get your hands off my counter before I call security. Sir, I'm not asking for anything that isn't mine. I don't care what story you're about to tell me. Look at yourself. You're embarrassing yourself. Move! The woman standing at the counter did not raise her voice. She did not argue. She nodded once. Then she took out her phone, pressed record, and placed it on the marble counter between them. The teller believed he was humiliating a woman who had walked into a bank where she did not belong. He had no idea he had just made the biggest mistake of his career. And before that day was over, he would understand exactly why. To understand what happened at that counter, you have to go back to the quiet decision that brought her there in the first place. Her name was Alana Whitmore. She was 42 years old and lived in a modest craftsman house in a Chicago suburb. She drove a 5-year-old Lexus with a small dent in the rear bumper that she kept promising herself she would repair. On her right hand, she wore one thin gold band that had belonged to her grandmother. Her grandmother had raised 3 children on a housekeeper's wages and had never once withdrawn more than $200 from a bank at one time. That morning, Alana had taken a personal day. Her 14-year-old daughter, Nia, was being honored at a scholarship ceremony later that day. Nia played the cello. She had been accepted into a summer music program in Vienna. The program cost $50,000. It was the kind of opportunity that could reshape the path of a young life. Alana had been saving quietly for 6 years. She planned to withdraw the money, convert it into a cashier's check, and place it inside a card she had already written for her daughter. She wanted the gift to feel personal, not like a corporate transaction, not like something handled by assistants, just a mother giving her child something she had worked years to make possible. Before entering the Oak Park flagship branch of Sterling Heritage Bank, Alana removed her silver earrings. She left her designer handbag hidden under the passenger seat and carried a plain leather tote instead. She pulled her hair into a simple, low bun. Then she spoke briefly with her assistant. I just want to be a regular customer this morning. No calls, no meetings, no special treatment. Just a mum buying her daughter a gift. Her assistant laughed softly. Understood. That was the last time anyone treated Alana as though her name meant anything for the next several hours. The Oak Park branch was the bank's flagship location. It had marble floors, brass fixtures, high windows, and a coin-counting machine near the entrance. The lobby smelled of lemon polish and old money. Everything about the room seemed designed around the assumption that anyone who belonged there would already know it. On one wall hung a framed photograph of the bank's executive team, 7 people in dark suits. In the center of the front row sat a black woman with a calm, steady expression. That morning, a seasonal display of white tulips partly blocked the photograph. Alana noticed the flowers. She noticed what they were covering. She said nothing. At window 4 stood a teller named Bryce Callahan. He was 29 years old and had worked at the branch for 3 years. Several months earlier, he had been passed over for a promotion he believed he deserved. His human resources file contained 2 informal complaints. Both had been written carefully. Both had remained unresolved. Bryce's phone rested face up beneath the counter while he scrolled through sports scores. When Alana entered the branch, he barely looked up. In a glass office at the back sat Preston Hale, the branch manager. He was 54 years old. On his computer, a compliance training module remained unfinished. He had completed only a small portion of it. The training had been assigned months earlier. He had been telling himself for weeks that he would finish it soon. Near the atrium stood Marcus Reed, the branch security guard. Marcus was 61 years old, a retired Chicago police officer who had worked at the branch for 8 years. His badge number was 612. He noticed almost everything. He said very little. Inside the breast pocket of his uniform, he carried a small leather notebook. For years he had written things in that notebook that nobody had ever seriously asked him about. Marcus saw Alana enter. His posture straightened. He recognized her immediately. He started to nod. Without fully turning toward him, Alana gave the smallest shake of her head. Marcus understood. He repositioned himself near the atrium and watched. 3 other customers mattered that morning. At window 2, an elderly white woman in a lavender coat spoke warmly about her granddaughter's wedding. She had banked at that branch for more than 30 years. Near the teller line, a young Latina mother named Teresa Flores gently rocked a stroller while waiting to cash a check. At window 1, a white businessman in a cashmere coat completed a large transaction. He was withdrawing $75,000 in the form of a cashier's check. The teller smiled. She did not ask him for a second identification card. She did not ask him where the money came from. She did not question whether he belonged. She completed the transaction, slid the cashier's check across the counter, and called the next customer. The next customer was Alana. Some mornings look completely ordinary until one person makes one decision that exposes everything beneath the surface. Alana stepped forward after waiting in line. She placed 3 things on the counter: her driver's license, her debit card, and a completed withdrawal slip for $50,000. Her voice was warm and professional. "Good morning. I'd like to convert this amount into a cashier's check, please." Bryce glanced at the slip, then at Alana, then back at the slip. His posture changed. His thumb stopped moving across his phone. "That's a large amount, Mom." "Yes, my account shows the available balance." He began typing, slowly, far more slowly than necessary. Then he looked up. "I'm going to need a second form of identification." Alana reached into her tote and slid her passport across the counter. Bryce examined it. He held it up toward the light as if he were checking a counterfeit bill. Then he placed it beside her driver's license. He did not return either one. "I'm going to need a third." Alana looked at him. "Is that standard for this transaction?" "It is for me." Alana took out her work identification card. It showed her name and a corporate logo. No title. Nothing that revealed her position. Bryce tapped the card with his pen. "This looks new. I renewed it last year." He placed it on the stack with her other identification. Now, all 3 pieces of Alana's identification were on his side of the counter. "I'm going to need to verify your signature." He disappeared into a back room. Alana waited. Minutes passed. The elderly woman at window 2 glanced toward her. Teresa Flores shifted her stroller slightly closer to the teller line. When Bryce returned, he carried a clipboard. "Ma'am, the signature you used today doesn't quite match the signature on file. I've signed my name the same way for 30 years. May I see the signature card? I can't show you that. Security protocol. Then let me sign again. I already checked it. It doesn't match." He did not offer her a pen. He did not give her a new form. Instead, he typed again, slowly. His face settled into something close to a smile. "I'm also seeing a hold on this account." "There is no hold on my account. My screen says there is. May I see the screen?" "No." "Then please contact the fraud department and ask them to clear it. They're unavailable." Alana knew that was false. She knew exactly how fraud staffing worked at Sterling Heritage Bank. She knew because she had helped approve the policies. She blinked once, very slowly. For a fraction of a second, something changed in her face. Then the calm returned. Because this feeling was not new. She had experienced versions of it when she was a teenager shopping in a department store. She had experienced it as a young woman traveling through an airport. She had experienced it at a restaurant during an anniversary dinner. Now she was standing inside a bank she had helped lead, and it was happening again. Bryce leaned forward. His voice rose just enough for nearby customers to hear. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to explain where this money came from. They're my funds. They've been in this account for 6 years. Bryce smirked. "Yeah, that's what a lot of people say." The businessman at window 1 turned his head. The elderly woman in lavender lowered her eyes toward her hands. Then Bryce raised his voice further. Hey, step back. You're making my counter smell. Sir, I only want to complete my transaction. I said step back. Did you even shower? This is a private bank, not a shelter. I'd like to withdraw $50,000. $50,000 from you? Bryce laughed. My watch costs more than your whole neighborhood. Go ask for money somewhere else. It's my account. Please. Your account? Did your government check finally clear? Get your hands off my counter before I call security. Sir, I'm not asking for anything except access to my own funds. I don't care what story you've got. People like you don't belong in a room like this. Look at yourself. You're embarrassing yourself. Move. The lobby went silent. Alana's jaw tightened once, then relaxed. She nodded, took out her phone, pressed record, placed the phone on the counter. What was your name again? Bryce gave a short laugh. Now you want my name? Go ahead. Bryce Callahan. Write it down. It won't change anything. I'd like to speak with the manager. Fine. You can waste his time too. Preston Hale stepped out of his office wearing the practiced smile of a man who had spent years smoothing over uncomfortable moments. He shook Alana's hand without really meeting her eyes. Bryce leaned toward him and whispered. Preston nodded sympathetically at Bryce. Ma'am, I understand there's some confusion. Our teller is simply following protocol. For a withdrawal of this size, additional verification may be required. I've made withdrawals of this size at this branch before, not with this process. Perhaps that was at another institution. No, it was here. Preston glanced toward his computer. He did not actually investigate the account history. He looked at the screen for only a moment, then turned back. Why don't we step into my office? No, I'd like this handled here, in public. The same way the customer at window 1 was handled. Preston's smile tightened. Then his tone softened. He leaned forward slightly. The voice became warm, almost paternal. Ma'am, I understand this is frustrating, but perhaps we can help you find a solution better suited to your needs. There are financial institutions that specialize in serving different communities. There's a money transfer service across the street, or our branch on the south side. You may feel more comfortable there. The entire lobby seemed to freeze. Even the businessman in the cashmere coat looked up. The elderly woman in lavender became completely still. Alana spoke carefully. You're suggesting I go to the south side because I would feel more comfortable there. I only meant those branches have staff who understand. Understand what, Mr. Hale? Please finish the sentence. Preston began to sweat. Different types of customers. Bryce, feeling supported by his manager, tried to help. Ma'am, people from that community sometimes prefer faster cash services. It's not wrong to suggest. Alana turned toward him. That community? Which community, Mr. Callahan? Bryce hesitated. People with different financial needs. Say it plainly. Which community? Bryce opened his mouth, then closed it. Preston pulled out his phone. Ma'am, as a gesture of goodwill, I can arrange transportation to another branch. The bank will cover it. Alana stared at him for a long moment. You're offering to pay for a ride so you can send me away. The elderly woman in lavender gasped. Teresa Flores covered her mouth. Marcus Reed took one step forward. Alana gave him the smallest shake of her head. Not yet. She wanted the record to be complete. Mr. Hale, I'm going to ask you one more time. Process my withdrawal, or provide written documentation explaining why you're refusing it. Ma'am, we're going to decline the transaction today. Come back with additional documentation. What documentation? We'll contact you. He had no answer. He was inventing policy as he spoke. Bryce smirked. Then Preston leaned closer, lowered his voice, and said the sentence he would later hear played back in a conference room while staring at a table. Ma'am, your presence is making other customers uncomfortable. Alana blinked once. Slowly. She did not cry. She did not raise her voice, but something in her face changed. The look would be familiar to anyone who had ever been told, politely or cruelly, that their presence itself was the problem. Alana picked up her phone. It was still recording. She collected her identification. She took the withdrawal slip. Then she turned toward the lobby. Her voice was clear. Steady. I would like every person in this room to remember what you just witnessed. Thank you. The elderly woman nodded. Teresa Flores spoke quietly. I saw it. Alana walked toward the atrium. She stopped in front of Marcus Reed. She looked at his name badge. Badge 612. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your service today. Marcus nodded. Alana walked out. The glass door closed behind her with a soft click. She sat inside her Lexus without moving. She did not cry. After a few quiet minutes, she picked up her phone and made one call. Diane, it's Alana. Convene the board. Today. Then Alana did what she always did when something broke in front of her. She made a list. No wasted motion. No dramatic reaction. Just the next necessary step. First, she called her daughter's school. This is Nia Whitmore's mother. Please let her know her grandmother will take her to the ceremony. Tell her I'll be there. And tell her I love her. Then Alana made several more calls. The first went to Diane Porter, the head of Human Resources. Diane, pull Bryce Callahan's complete file from the Oak Park branch. Everything. Performance reviews, customer complaints, training records. I need it immediately. The second call went to Regional Vice President Rochelle Grant. Something happened at the flagship branch this morning. I need you downtown. Bring Monica Hayes from compliance. Pull transaction disparity data from Oak Park covering the last 6 months. Flag rates. Secondary identification requests. Withdrawal denials. Cross-reference everything by race, gender, and primary language. The third call went to Board Chair Franklin Avery. I need the board available today. This isn't urgent in the legal sense yet. It's urgent in every other sense. I'll explain when we meet. By the time Alana drove away, notifications were already moving through Sterling Heritage Bank's executive offices. Back inside the branch, none of that was visible. Bryce remained at window 4. He leaned toward the teller at window 5 and began retelling the story as though it was something funny. Did you see her face? She really thought she was going to walk out of here with $50,000. I shut that down fast. The other teller laughed weakly. She did not look comfortable, but Bryce was the kind of person who made silence feel risky, so she laughed anyway. Inside the glass office, Preston paced. He had already begun rewriting the morning in his own mind. Difficult customer, escalating behavior, compliance concerns. He protected the institution. That would be his explanation. He told himself he would write an incident report later. He did not. Marcus Reed remained near the atrium. He watched Bryce laughing. He watched Preston pacing. Then he reached into his breast pocket and removed the small leather notebook he had carried for 8 years. He opened it, clicked his pen, and wrote, Window 4, Bryce Callahan. Alana Whitmore. Service refused. Insults used. Manager supported teller. I witnessed it. Then Marcus returned the notebook to his pocket. He said nothing. Later that morning, Preston received an email from the executive office. Branch visit. Compliance review. No explanation. Preston assumed it was routine. He told himself he would open the training dashboard before they arrived. He did not. Soon after, a second email arrived. This one included Bryce. Subject. Transaction review. Window 4. Bryce read it. Then read it again. The smirk slowly disappeared. Greg, did you get this? Preston walked over. Read the message. His face changed. Downtown, high above the city, Monica Hayes from compliance had already begun pulling data. She was quiet, thorough, experienced. She knew how to follow a pattern once someone handed her the first thread. Within the hour, the numbers were clear. During the previous 6 months, Bryce Callahan had flagged 23 transactions at his window for enhanced review. 19 of those customers were not white. His flag rate for white customers was 0.9%. His flag rate for non-white customers was 11.4%. more than 12 times higher. The data had existed in the branch system the entire time. Nobody at Oak Park had reviewed it carefully. Monica printed the report, placed it in a folder, and brought it to Alana. Around the same time, Teresa Flores returned to the Oak Park branch with her stroller. She approached Marcus Reed, the woman from earlier. "If anyone asks, I saw everything. My name is Teresa Flores. Please write it down." Marcus opened his notebook. He wrote her name, her phone number, then looked at her. "Thank you." Teresa nodded and left. Elsewhere, Alana sat in a plain conference room. Not the chief executive office, just a small room with a laptop and a pot of coffee. She had changed into another blazer. She watched the bank's security footage through her executive access. She watched herself being humiliated. Then she watched it again. On the second viewing, she paused at the moment Preston suggested the South Side branch. She captured the frame, marked the point in the footage, attached it to an email. Alana did not cry. She had spent decades working in rooms where few people looked like her. She knew how to build a case. Later, a black sport utility vehicle left the downtown tower. Inside sat Alana, Monica Hayes, Diane Porter, and Rochelle Grant, 4 women in dark suits. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Then Monica broke the silence. "Alana, the pattern didn't start with Bryce. The branch has broader problems." Alana nodded. "I know. That's why we're not just firing one teller." When the vehicle entered the Oak Park parking lot, Bryce was still at window 4, serving customers. He had begun laughing again. The glass doors opened. Alana walked in first. Same low bun, same thin gold ring, same calm face. Nothing about her looked more powerful than it had earlier. Only the context had changed. Behind her walked Monica with a leather folder. Diane carrying a tablet. Rochelle in a navy suit. The elderly woman in lavender was still in the branch completing another transaction. She looked up, saw Alana, then touched the arm of the woman beside her. Marcus straightened. His chin lifted slightly. He did not smile, but his eyes changed. He nodded at Alana. She nodded back. Preston stepped out of his office carrying coffee. He saw Alana first. For a fraction of a second, confusion crossed his face. Then he noticed the women behind her. His eyes landed on Rochelle Grant. He knew her. He had sat on regional calls with her. He had met her at company conferences. The coffee cup in his hand began to shake. The color drained slowly from his face. At window 4, Bryce had not noticed any of this. Then he glanced up, saw Alana, and laughed. "You've got to be kidding me." She came back. She actually came back. The teller beside him did not laugh this time. Bryce's eyes moved past Alana. He saw the 3 women behind her. He did not know all of them, but he saw Preston standing frozen near his office. A cold feeling began to spread through him. Alana walked to the center of the lobby. She reached inside her blazer, took out a slim black leather folio, opened it. Inside was an executive identification card, silver embossed seal, her photograph, her name, and beneath it, Chief Executive Officer, Sterling Heritage Bank. She held it at chest level, not high, not dramatically, just where anyone in the room could see. Then she spoke in the same calm voice she had used at window 4. "For anyone who was here earlier, I'm sorry you had to witness what happened. My name is Alana Whitmore. I have been the Chief Executive Officer of this bank for 4 years. I'm here to make some changes." The lobby did not erupt. It went silent. The kind of silence that happens when everyone realizes the ground beneath them is not where they thought it was. Preston's knees seemed to weaken. One hand reached for the office wall. Coffee spilled from his cup onto the carpet. He did not notice. Bryce stared at Alana. The smirk vanished. His mouth opened slightly. Then his eyes moved toward the framed photograph on the east wall. The photograph he had walked past every workday for years. The one partly hidden behind white tulips. Then back to Alana. Then back to the photograph. "No." His voice came out quietly. "No." Monica walked to the wall. She gently moved the tulip display aside. The executive photograph became fully visible. 7 people in dark suits. Front row, center, Alana Whitmore. The same face Bryce was staring at now. The photograph had been hanging there for years. The elderly woman in lavender abandoned her transaction. She walked across the lobby, took Alana's hand in both of hers. I saw what happened earlier. I saw all of it. I'll tell anyone who asks. Thank you. Would you be willing to give a statement? I would. Diane stepped forward with her tablet. Alana turned toward Bryce. She walked to window 4. 3 measured steps. She stopped in the exact place where he had told her she did not belong. She placed both hands on the marble. Bryce's eyes were wet. His voice cracked. Miss Whitmore, I didn't know. I didn't know who you were. Something tired and painful moved behind Alana's eyes. That is exactly the problem, Mr. Callahan. You didn't know. Because you didn't ask. You looked at me and decided. You would have treated another woman who walked up to this window looking like me the same way. My title should not have earned me courtesy. My humanity should have been enough. Bryce tried to speak. Nothing came. Alana turned away from him. She faced the room. Mr. Hale, step away from your office. Monica Hayes will act as branch manager effective immediately while we conduct a full review. Preston opened his mouth. Rochelle raised one finger without even looking at him. He stopped. Mr. Callahan, you are suspended effective immediately pending a disciplinary investigation. Then Alana turned toward Marcus. Her tone softened slightly. Marcus, would you please escort Mr. Callahan to the Human Resources Annex? He may collect only his personal belongings. Marcus answered quietly. Yes, ma'am. Some people think stories like this are about revenge. They are not. They are about what happens when a person who was assumed to have the least power is revealed to hold the most. And more importantly, what that person chooses to do next. Within hours, the back conference room of the Oak Park branch had become the center of a bank-wide review. Monica set up a laptop and portable printer. Transaction reports were arranged into neat stacks. Alana sat at the head of the long table. Diane sat beside her. Across from Alana sat Preston Hale. His tie remained perfectly knotted. His hands lay flat on the table. He looked like a man trying to stop them from shaking. Monica began. During the last 6 months, Bryce Callahan flagged 23 transactions for enhanced review. 19 involved non-white customers. His flag rate for white customers was 0.9%. His flag rate for non-white customers was 11.4%, a disparity greater than 12 times. She slid the chart across the table. Preston did not touch it. This data has been available in the branch dashboard for months. You were trained to review that dashboard every week. We checked access records. You had not opened the relevant section in a long time. Silence. Diane placed a small recorder on the table. She pressed play. Alana's voice filled the room. Good morning. I'd like to convert this into a cashier's check, please. Then Bryce. That's a large amount, ma'am. The recording continued. The demand for a second identification card. Then a third. The unexplained delay. The claim that Alana's signature did not match. The supposed account hold. The fraud department that was suddenly unavailable. Then the public insults. You're making my counter smell. Did you even shower? Did your government check clear? Get your hands off my counter. People like you don't belong in a room like this. Then Preston's own voice entered the recording. Smooth, helpful, suggesting a branch on the south side. Different types of customers. Transportation at the bank's expense. Finally, your presence is making other customers uncomfortable. Diane allowed silence to continue for several seconds before stopping the recording. Preston had closed his eyes. Diane spoke calmly. Mr. Hale, the recording shows multiple separate refusal tactics used against a customer whose funds were legitimate, whose identification was legitimate, whose signature was legitimate, and whose account had sufficient funds. None of those refusal methods appear in Sterling Heritage policy. None match our training. I have read that manual from beginning to end. I helped write it. Which protocol were you following? Preston opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. Alana. Miss Whitmore, I had no idea the numbers were. The numbers have been in your dashboard for months. The dashboard I helped design. You didn't look. He was still learning. There were complaints about him. They were in his file. Customers closed accounts after dealing with him. We lost approximately $340,000 in deposits during the period connected to those complaints and service failures. And you rated him a team player. Monica turned the laptop. Preston's compliance training dashboard appeared. The progress bar showed only 22% completed. Assigned months earlier, still unfinished. The title of the unfinished module was clear. Recognizing patterned discrimination in retail banking. Monica looked at him. This is the exact training designed to help managers recognize the kind of disparity happening at Window 4. The data was not hidden. You did not review it. Preston stared at the screen. Diane opened several short audio clips. Our branch on the south side. You may feel more comfortable there. Different types of customers. Your presence is making other customers uncomfortable. The room fell quiet. Diane leaned back. Mr. Hale, would you like to explain to the board, in your own words, what you meant by each of those statements? Preston tried to speak. No words came. Alana looked at him. That is what I thought. Down the hall, Bryce sat in a smaller room across from Diane and outside Employment Council. He had been crying. His eyes were red. A paper cup of water sat untouched in front of him. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I was having a bad day. I've been stressed. I got passed over for promotion and... Diane interrupted gently. Mr. Callahan, this review is not limited to what you believe you intended. We are examining what you did. Your conduct was recorded by the customer, captured by security cameras, witnessed by multiple people. We have evidence of multiple refusal tactics used against a customer with legitimate funds, valid identification, a valid signature, and a clean account history. Bryce lowered his head. I'll apologize. I'll write her a letter. I'll take training. I'll do anything. Diane gave him the available options under the bank's process. Resignation in lieu of termination for cause, or formal termination if he refused and the findings were upheld. He would lose severance protections tied to good standing. Future employers requesting verification would receive truthful information consistent with law and policy. Bryce was given time to decide. Later, Alana joined a video call with members of the board. Franklin Avery spoke first. Some board members are concerned about a public statement. The exposure. Franklin, the exposure already happened in the flagship lobby in front of witnesses. The only question is whether we lead honestly or spend months chasing the truth after someone else tells it for us. I intend to lead. There was a pause. Proceed. I'm not finished. The call went silent again. We are not only dealing with one teller. We are not only dealing with one manager. We are ordering a full audit of every branch. Every teller, every supervisor, 6 months of transaction data, disparity analysis across race, gender, and primary language. Monica will lead. External auditors will verify the findings. We will publish the results internally and summarize them publicly. We are opening direct reporting channels to human resources and compliance that bypass branch management. And we are establishing a customer restitution fund for people who were improperly flagged or refused service during the previous 2 years. Silence. Then Franklin answered. Approved. All of it. Monica pulled up the list of customers flagged by Bryce during the previous 6 months. 19 non-white customers. Names protected for privacy. Alana made another decision. I want a personal apology letter sent to every person on that list. Signed by me. Audit their accounts for fees caused by delays or improper holds. Refund those fees with interest. Open a dedicated customer relations hotline and contact Teresa Flores personally. She came back to identify herself as a witness. That matters. Diane wrote everything down. Then Marcus Reed knocked on the conference room door. He held his hat in one hand, the small leather notebook in the other. He placed the notebook on the table. "Ma'am, there's more in there than what happened today." Monica opened it. She read one page. Then another. Then another. Her face changed. She looked up. "There's much more." Alana turned toward Marcus. "Thomas, why didn't you report these incidents before?" Marcus met her eyes. 8 years of patience sat behind his expression. "Ma'am, I did. 3 times. To Mr. Hale. Those reports are not in the system." Across the room, Preston lowered his head into his hands. Diane looked at Alana. "Our current whistleblower system routes many initial reports through branch managers. A guard reporting a manager has no clean path around that manager. Then we close that gap now. Effective immediately. Security officers, operations staff, custodians, part-time tellers, any employee, any badge, any shift. They get a direct channel to human resources and compliance that does not pass through branch management. Put it in tonight's memo." Later, Bryce returned to the small conference room. He signed the resignation papers. His hand shook. As he stood to leave, he looked toward Alana. Not quite into her eyes. "I'm sorry." Alana nodded once. She did not say it was okay, because it was not. "I hope you do the work, Mr. Callahan. Not for me, for the next person you meet." After the branch closed, the cleaning crew moved quietly through the lobby. Alana stood alone on the marble compass rose where she had revealed her identification earlier. Marcus walked over carrying 2 paper cups of coffee. He handed her one. They stood side by side, looking toward a window 4, the same place where she had been told to go somewhere else. "You all right, Mom?" "I will be." "Marcus, thank you. For the notebook. For everything." Marcus took a slow sip. His voice carried the weight of a man who had been waiting a very long time. 8 years is a long time to wait for someone to ask. The following morning, every employee of Sterling Heritage Bank received the same message from the Chief Executive Officer. More than 2,000 people across 12 branches opened the same email. The subject line was simple. "A message from your Chief Executive Officer." There was no public relations language at the top. No legal disclaimer. No attempt to hide behind vague phrases. Alana told the story plainly. She did not use employee names. She did not exaggerate. She described walking into the flagship branch as a customer. She described presenting valid identification. She described being asked for more identification than the customer before her. She described the false signature problem, the invented hold, the refusal to call the fraud department, and the repeated efforts to push her out of the branch. She described being told that another neighborhood might be more appropriate for someone like her. She described being offered transportation away from the bank instead of access to her own money. Then she described the sentence that stayed with her most. Her presence, she had been told, was making other customers uncomfortable. She described being refused service at the flagship branch. She described the repeated identification demands, the invented barriers, the insulting language, the suggestion that she use another branch where she might feel more comfortable. Then she wrote one sentence that traveled through the organization faster than anything else. "I was refused service at my own bank. I am the Chief Executive Officer. Imagine what happens to people who are not." Then came the commitments, a full audit across all 12 branches, every teller, every supervisor. Transaction patterns reviewed across race, gender, and primary language. A new whistleblower channel that would allow employees to contact human resources and compliance without passing through local branch management. A customer restitution fund for people improperly delayed, flagged, or refused service. Mandatory bias training with completion verified by human resources instead of left to individual managers. Regular publication of disparity metrics. A standing customer experience advisory council that would include people outside executive leadership. Each commitment had a deadline. Each had an owner. Nothing was vague. Alana knew promises without dates were often just a softer form of delay. She did not want a statement that sounded compassionate and changed nothing. She wanted actions people could measure. The memo leaked quickly. It appeared on social media, then on professional networking sites, then on the front page of local news websites. By lunchtime, reporters were calling the bank. Business journalists began asking whether the flagship incident reflected a wider pattern. The bank's public relations team became anxious. Some wanted to issue a carefully softened statement. Others wanted to wait until the audit ended. Alana did not. She refused to let fear of embarrassment become another reason to delay the truth. The problem had happened in public. The response would not be hidden behind closed doors. She approved a short, factual statement. No employee names. No dramatic language. She agreed to one live interview with local public radio. The conversation lasted long enough for the host to ask about the incident, the audit, the employees involved, the bank's responsibilities, and the difference between individual prejudice and institutional failure. Alana answered every question plainly. She did not perform outrage. She did not pretend she felt nothing either. The host asked whether she was angry. Alana answered honestly. Anger is the easy part. Resolve is the part that changes something. Then she explained that firing one employee could make a headline, but reviewing the system was the only way to learn whether the same harm had happened quietly to other customers. That was the work she cared about most. Teresa Flores later received a personal call. "Mrs. Flores, this is Alana Whitmore. I'm calling to thank you for coming back and leaving your name." Teresa sat down on the edge of her couch. Alana offered compensation for Teresa's time. Teresa declined. Then Alana offered something else. A seat on the new Customer Experience Advisory Council. A real voice in the room where future policies would be discussed. Teresa accepted before Alana finished explaining. For Teresa, the invitation mattered because she had entered the branch that morning as an ordinary customer with no title, no executive connection, and no reason to believe anyone would ever ask what she had seen. Now the bank was asking her to sit in a room where customer experience policies would be discussed, not as decoration, as a voice. That difference mattered to Alana. Preston Hale was not terminated. After the investigation, he was demoted to a non-customer-facing internal audit position 2 levels below his former role. He was transferred out of Oak Park. He was required to complete the compliance training he had ignored, with a human resources observer. For Preston, the consequence was not disappearance. He had to stay. He had to learn. He had to enter an office every day knowing why he was there. Bryce Callahan left the bank. Months later, he was working in another industry. He had begun seeing a counselor. He made no public statements about the incident. Whether he truly changed was something no report could guarantee. People are not reformed by paperwork. Change remains a choice. But the possibility of change still matters. The bank-wide audit continued for the full review period. External auditors checked the internal findings. They studied customer service flags, requests for extra identification, transaction delays, denial rates, complaint records, and management responses. The purpose was not to prove every difference was discrimination. The purpose was to identify patterns large enough that leadership could no longer dismiss them as isolated stories. When the audit closed, the findings were uncomfortable. 3 additional tellers were terminated. 2 branch managers were demoted. 11 of the bank's 12 branches showed statistically significant disparities requiring corrective action. 1 branch showed no meaningful disparity. Its staff was brought in to help design internal retraining because the bank wanted to study what was working, not only what had failed. The audit also forced the bank to examine how much responsibility local managers had been allowed to carry without meaningful review. It became clear that policy on paper was not enough. A rule nobody checks is only a suggestion. Training. Nobody completes, cannot protect anyone. A complaint routed back to the same manager being complained about is not a safe reporting system. Those lessons became part of the reform. The audit was published internally as promised. Employees could see the findings. They could see where the institution had failed and where it had performed better. A public summary was added to the bank's social responsibility reporting. Industry publications picked it up. 2 competing Chicago banks announced reviews of their own customer transaction patterns soon afterward. Another institution followed later. The reforms unexpectedly began moving beyond Sterling Heritage's doors. Alana never claimed the bank had solved discrimination. She said something more modest. They had finally built systems designed to notice it sooner. That was not perfection, but it was progress that could be measured. And through all of this, Alana still had a daughter waiting for her. She walked into the auditorium at Nia's school later that day, wearing the same blazer. She had not gone home to change. She had barely stopped moving. Nia was already on stage. Then she saw her mother standing near the back. Her face broke into the kind of smile a child keeps for only one person. Later, in the car, Nia asked the simplest question. "Mum, how was your day?" Alana glanced toward her daughter. She smiled. Small, tired, real. It was a day. They drove in silence for a moment. Streetlights moved across the windshield. Then Alana spoke. "I'm proud of you, baby." Nia looked at her. "I'm proud of you too, Mum." That evening belonged to Nia, and that mattered. Because justice was not the only thing in Alana's life. Neither was leadership. She was still a mother, still a daughter, still a woman trying to make it to the moments that mattered after spending the day carrying something heavy. What happened inside the Oak Park branch could have happened in many cities, in many banks, in many offices, in many stores. What made this story unusual was not that someone was judged before being known. That happens far too often. What made the outcome unusual was that the person being mistreated had enough authority to force the system to look at itself. Most people do not. That is why change cannot depend only on the person being harmed. It has to come from policy, from leadership, from data someone is willing to review, from employees who refuse to laugh along, from witnesses who decide their discomfort is less important than the truth, from customers like Teresa Flores who returned to the branch and said, "I saw it, and I will give you my name." From people like Marcus Reed who kept a notebook for 8 years even when nobody seemed interested in reading it. After the reforms, Marcus still stood at his post. He still carried the small leather notebook in his breast pocket. The same notebook that had held years of names, dates, fragments of conversations, and incidents that never seemed to reach anyone with enough authority to act. But over time, fewer new pages filled it. Not because every problem disappeared, not because every employee suddenly became perfect, because the things he used to write in private finally had somewhere else to go. A direct line, a case number, a required response, a record that could be reviewed by people outside the local branch. For Marcus, that change was quiet. But after 8 years of writing things down and wondering whether anyone would ever care, quiet change still felt enormous. A direct reporting channel, people required to respond. Records that could not quietly vanish inside a manager's desk. 8 years is a long time to wait for someone to ask. And that may be one of the most important lessons in the entire story. The lesson is not that Alana Whitmore walked into her own bank and defeated the people who mistreated her. That would turn a human problem into a simple revenge story. The deeper lesson is that Marcus kept writing. Teresa came back. Monica looked at the numbers. Diane asked difficult questions. Rochelle did not protect a manager simply because he had seniority. Board members approved a review that might embarrass the institution. And Alana used power not only to punish what happened to her, but to examine what may have been happening to people whose names she would never have known. That is where accountability becomes meaningful, not when it protects only the powerful person who was harmed. But when it changes the conditions for the person who comes next, respect should never depend on a title. Alana deserved courtesy before Bryce knew who she was. She deserved it if she had been a teacher, a home health worker, a cashier, a woman between jobs, a mother withdrawing $200 instead of $50,000. Her humanity was enough. The same is true for every person who walks through a bank, a hospital, a store, an office, or any other room where someone holds temporary authority behind a counter. A uniform does not make one person more human. A bank balance does not make another person less human. And power becomes dangerous when it allows someone to confuse personal assumptions with professional judgment. There is another lesson here too. Patterns often hide inside ordinary data. One incident can be explained away. 2 complaints can be called misunderstandings. A few uncomfortable moments can disappear into paperwork. But when nobody connects the dots, repetition becomes culture. The numbers at Oak Park had been available for months. The training existed. The complaints existed. Marcus's notes existed. What was missing was attention. That is why responsibility is not always dramatic. Sometimes responsibility means opening the dashboard, reading the complaint, finishing the training, calling the host office, checking the name again, asking one more question before deciding who someone is. It means noticing when the same kind of person keeps being treated as suspicious. It means being willing to say, something here is not right. Forgiveness does not erase consequences. Accountability does not require cruelty. Alana did not humiliate Bryce for entertainment. She did not celebrate Preston's collapse. She gave the facts room to speak. She removed people from roles where they could continue causing harm. She created paths for learning where learning was still possible. She required the bank to examine itself instead of pretending one employee was the whole problem. That distinction matters because real reform is not about winning one moment. It is about making the next moment different. Alana continued using the Oak Park branch. The employees knew who she was now. But she did not want courtesy because everyone had memorized her title. She wanted the branch to become a place where a person without a title received the same patience. The framed executive photograph on the east wall was eventually no longer hidden behind tulips. The seasonal display was moved. The photograph remained visible. Not because Alana wanted every customer to know the chief executive officer might be standing beside them, but because institutions send messages with what they hide and what they choose to show. Some changes are large. Audits, policy reforms, leadership decisions. Others are small, moving flowers, opening a notebook, calling a witness, listening to a guard, refunding a fee, taking a complaint seriously the first time. Justice is rarely one dramatic moment. More often, it is 1,000 choices repeated by ordinary people. A teller choosing patience, a manager choosing to review data, a witness choosing not to look away, a colleague choosing not to laugh, a leader choosing truth over reputation, a customer choosing to return and say, "I saw what happened." So, when you find yourself in a room where someone is being treated unfairly, remember that you may have more power than you think. You may not be the chief executive officer. You may not control the policy. You may not even know the person being harmed. But you can pay attention. You can document. You can ask a question. You can refuse to join the laughter. You can give your name. You can be a witness. And when someone trusts you enough to tell you something is wrong, open the notebook. Read every page. Ask what happened before. Ask who else was affected. Ask why nobody acted. Then do something with the answer. Courtesy is not a privilege earned by wealth, status, race, race, appearance, or job title. It is the minimum we owe one another. Alana's title should never have changed the way she was treated. The important question was always how she would have been treated if nobody discovered that title at all. That is the question worth carrying into our own lives. When you meet someone who can do nothing for you, who are you? When nobody important is watching, who are you? When the easier choice is silence, what do you choose? And when you discover that you were wrong, do you defend yourself or do you learn? Kindness is not weakness. Accountability is not revenge. And respect is not something we save for important people. Every person is important to someone. Every person carries a history we cannot see. Every person deserves to be met first as a human being. That is how things actually change. One decision, one witness, one honest question, one opened notebook at a time. Alana Whitmore, Bryce Callahan, and the people in this story are fictional characters, and the specific events are presented as a fictional narrative. But the human lesson behind the story is real. Somewhere, someone is being judged before being known. Somewhere, a witness is deciding whether to speak. Somewhere, a complaint is sitting unread. And somewhere, a person with the power to make things better has not yet realized that someone is waiting for them to ask the right question.